We're talking about abortion. We're talking about abortion, and
it's not a laughing matter.
And it is not a laughing matter. No, seriously, it's not a laughing matter, but it's something that we need to talk about. Mm-hmm. And so basically, we're talking abortion, contraceptives, protection as far as getting a baby is concerned. And the reason why we're talking about this is in the past 2 weeks, I think. Matter of fact, 2 days ago, they were talking about they found a baby dumped by a dumpster in some of these apartment homes out here. And I mean, when I saw that, my mind goes start racing, trying to figure out why did she do that? What was the point behind that? Couldn't she have just, if she got pregnant by mistake, if she didn't want it, abort it? But then again, abortion is wrong, they say. So, what could she have done to prevent her from dumping the baby and taking off? Since I'm talking abortion, contraceptives.
I feel like a lot of this has to do with sex education. And when you go into sex education, in Texas particularly, they're trying to do abstinence only. So they don't want to educate the youth. Yeah, which doesn't make sense because people, if they want to do it, they'll do it. So they don't educate the youth on proper sex education and the consequences, contraception and all that stuff. So then you have, how old was the girl who got rid of the baby?
I think she was probably like 21.
You get into that, and then when you add the rules and regulations of Texas, then they make it harder for people to get an abortion. So when that happens, and then you add the moral, depending on the girl's family situation, all those things. But she could have done, was the baby viable?
I don't know. The fact that she dumped the baby.
Yeah. Because if the baby was alive, then she could have. I think you can still take him to the firehouses or something.
Yes. I think people don't, and that's why sex education is so important. People don't realize that there are options. Like even if you go through everything and you end up having the baby, you don't have to keep it. Like you can give it up for adoption. Maybe the girl didn't know she was pregnant, or she was too ashamed to go to the hospital. I don't know if they have to call your parents or something when you.
No, he said she was 21.
She was 21.
She was of age.
She was of age, but she just couldn't deal.
Like that. She was over 18.
Oh, who knows? It might have even been a mental health issue and she didn't know. But people need more options, and so I'm sure there were several options available to her, but she might not have known any of them, or it could have been a mental health situation where she didn't have access to help.
What?
Oh. She had a husband.
It's getting complicated.
Might have been mental health though, because like she said, there are a lot of options people have, but it's just lack of information and lack of education. People just
lack of access as well.
Access, exactly. Lack of access. And then I guess you just panic. You're like,
access
oh my God.
to contraception, access to
information,
abortion, sex education. I mean, say she wanted to give up the baby for adoption, but she didn't know how to go through that. She didn't want to talk to her husband or her boyfriend or whatever because maybe he wanted to keep the kid, but she knows she can't afford it. So I don't know. Maybe she just got so in a headspace. You can have postpartum depression.
Yes.
Like right after you give you give birth to the child. So could have been a situation where she just didn't feel any connection to the baby. And then
and it's as bad as it happens. It's as bad as women get depressed so bad that you think the baby is some kind of demon or something like that. It gets that serious, and you're like
really common. Like I think 1 in 4.
Yeah.
So, where does that stem from? Like, do we live in a society where women that feel like that have no other outlet or no access to information to overcome this feeling? So,
most people don't know what postpartum depression is, and they're afraid they're going to be judged for it. So if you have a kid and you don't feel that instant maternal connection to your child, it's just a thing that came out of you, and now you're tired and you can't sleep and you have no connection to the baby and you're feeling sad, and you don't want to tell someone, I don't really like my baby, or I don't really know how I feel about this kid, or how it's going to impact my life. That's not something that you would want to say, because if you tell your husband that, or if you tell your partner that, or whatever, they may judge you for not connecting to your child.
I think it's not necessary, or at least to me required, for a guy to have any kind of input when it comes to the decision of whether to have an abortion or not. Because to me, it's like my body, so unless maybe in the situation where it's like a partner, like a long-term partner, where we're together. But if it's just something little or something short-term, I don't think, their input, because they could say, oh yeah, we're gonna get through this together, blah blah blah, but that really doesn't mean anything. When the baby does come, you can just bail out, and then I'm stuck with a child that I didn't prepare for.
And sex ed, because I know in sex ed they separate the guys and the girls, so they talk about different things. But for the girls,
not necessarily.
Oh, they don't?
Yeah, no.
I didn't think they would.
No, because I was going to say, what do they talk to the girls about? Especially, I know they talk about protection, how to protect yourself.
They talk about your reproductive system as well, how all that works.
But do they even touch on the postpartum, like if you are pregnant, those kind of feelings?
Well,
if
that's more complicated.
I
think that's
it depends on the school. They might not actually talk about anything. In high school, they might not actually teach sexual education. Postpartum
depression, I think that's your OBGYN that talks to you about that. So sometimes people don't recognize the symptoms, so they don't know what to tell their doctor. So
it's just weird because I feel like as a female, if you're growing up in society, you need to know everything that has to do with what you may go through. I mean, any female that's pregnant needs to know there are these things that you're going to feel, because if you don't know, then you start feeling like what you're thinking is.
It's not even a matter. It's not even a matter of knowing. It's a matter of how we think about mental health and those types of things in general. Even everybody knows what depression is, right? But not everybody is willing to go to a therapist or admit that they're having symptoms of depression just because
to
they
be
don't
more
want to
specific,
be that person.
there are different types of depression. There's like the general depression and there's clinical depression. So the general depression is what everybody else goes through. I'm sad for a short period of time and then I get better after a while. But clinical depression is a chemical imbalance in your body, and there's no way you can make yourself feel better. You have to do through pharmaceuticals. So people think when they see somebody and say, oh, I feel sad for an extended period of time, you're sleeping a lot, you just don't have any will to do anything, you're lazy, a whole bunch of different, you feel helpless in the world. So people just tell you pray or do this, do that. They don't realize that there's nothing you can do about it, but actually go to therapy, take medication and all that. That's what you live with the rest of your life. So you have bouts of depression and being well. So there's nothing. So people try to encourage you. They think it's something you can cure. You can't cure depression. You can only control it.
And people can't help but judge sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing someone that has this baby, and you're supposed to be, that's maternal instinct is supposed to kick in right away. And so it'll scare yourself and it'll scare the other person. So you might not be willing to admit it. So and then even access to maybe, I think in Louisiana, they have to come to Houston. They have to come to like Planned Parenthood in Houston to get their abortions. Like sometimes you have to go 3-4 hours out of your way. If you're 21 years old and you don't have a car, you don't have access to get an abortion, and the person that you're with doesn't want you to get an abortion, then you're kind of stuck.
So do I support abortion? My answer is plain no. I don't. It's not in my belief, But then again, if somebody comes out to me and they give me the reasons why they decided to go forward with such a thing, if it makes sense to me, I can't fault them. If somebody gets raped, who am I to say don't? I can't just be here and be like, don't do it. It's different levels to it, so I can't really tell somebody don't.
People generally think that when you say abortion, they think teens, which is actually not the case.
Yeah,
a lot of abortions are mature women, married women.
That
all this has to do with family planning. They've had multiple kids, and they had a child by accident, and they just can't afford to have another. So every time people say abortion, you just say, oh, these teens that are having sex and just throwing babies in the toilet. That's not how it works.
And I'm only going to say the mature adults, not teens. Right. But how can you as a mature adult accidentally have a child?
That's what I'm saying.
Accidentally have a child?
Yeah, I can't. How can
Condoms break.
Everything is not 100%. The only thing that's 100% is abstinence. So
okay, I get that, but okay, if the condom breaks, what stops you from going to the morning after? I mean, there's
morning after pill costs $50. If you don't have that,
exactly.
Okay, but
easier said than done. When you're in it, you're like,
and that's the world we live in. We live in this world where we judge people for getting pregnant.
But doesn't an abortion cost more than morning after?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
okay. So I mean, what's the difference?
People like to say, "I'll take my chance."
They'll rather not spend $50, or they'll rather
pray that baby doesn't come.
Wear a condom, or as against you don't do it since you end up getting pregnant and you dump the baby.
I mean, a good condom, just one costs $1, maybe $2. Morning after is $50. Abortion is what, $300 plus? I don't know. Like, I mean you look at it that way. It's like you have all these steps to prevent it from happening.
I understand what you're saying, but shit happens.
My thing is once you're pregnant, once you don't do all these things, it would have stopped you from getting pregnant. Once you're pregnant, that baby's yours.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
So what would y'all do?
I mean,
it
we're
depends.
all in the health. We're all health professionals. We know what to do. We have access to that information.
That's what I'm saying. What would you? Do y'all support abortion?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
She said she's fine with it. I said I'm fine with it completely.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So you support you. I mean, well, you already said you're not. You wouldn't find yourself in that type of situation. But if you find somebody who finds themselves in that type of situation, you would talk to them or advise them, or they just somebody comes to you, I'm pregnant. What do I do? What would you tell them?
I would
go ahead.
Well, I would tell them their options. If you already know you're pregnant, I would help you either find an abortion clinic or just a family planning clinic, so that they can tell you. So here's what you could do. You could do adoption. You can have an abortion. You could do an open adoption, so you can still see the kid. You can do,
or you can keep the baby.
Or you
discuss
can keep
your
the baby.
finances, what your options are.
Yeah. Talk about jobs.
Is
school,
the father there? Is he?
Have enough money to help you out.
That's what Planned Parenthood is for. People always have this misconception that Planned Parenthood is just
only
abortion.
does abortions, but that's
actually like 2%.
It's actually
right?
called Planned Parenthood, which is family planning. So when somebody gets pregnant, they go to Planned Parenthood. They discuss all what she just mentioned. They discuss all the options. So it depends on what you want to do as an individual, where you are in your life at that point. Because like I said before, all the people who get pregnant are not only teens. They're families. They're established women. Different life situations. So that's why you need access is very important, because you can be rich or poor. If you don't know this information is out there, you wouldn't know what to do. So that's why I said you start educating people from when they're young, because all these abstinence only programs, they make no sense. Regardless of what's going on, teenagers are curious. They're going to have sex regardless. So
or just people, not even just
also and it's also mostly targeted towards females. It should also include the guys.
Males. And we need to talk about sex. Like, we don't teach kids about sex and like not feeling ashamed of carrying a condom around if you're a girl, or not being, a lot of times, and I used to do this, but now I'm in substance abuse, but a lot of my work used to be in sexual education. I used to talk to a lot of teens, and they feel some type of way about carrying condoms because they don't want people to perceive them as a hoe.
Mm-hmm.
Or
they girls.
Women, girls. So if you,
I don't know a guy that carries a condom around at a young age. I'm talking about teenagers now.
Even like there are teenagers that carry condoms around, and there are guys, and like you can't depend on the guy to have a condom, so you want to have one for yourself. So if I know these young teens don't carry one around, then I need to take it upon myself to carry one if I'm thinking about being sexually active. Now, if someone sees a condom in my purse, they're going to automatically assume
that you're sexually active.
So we have these negative perceptions about women and sexuality and taking control of their sexuality. But we don't. But when they have the kid, all of a sudden, well, why didn't you do something about it?
And then you now add morality and religion into it, and your parents into it, and that complicates things. So imagine you're a teenager and you want to be sexually active. How do you tell your parents you want to be sexually active? Exactly. So you now start hiding, and then where do they learn a lot of things from? Porn. Exactly. They learn about sex through porn,
which is very. People think if you put Dr. Pepper in your vagina, that'll get rid of the semen. People think all these bleach. Mountain Dew. People think if
I pour bleach in your vagina?
Yes.
No, that's not healthy.
If you wipe bleach in your vagina, like there's all these folk tales about how to not get pregnant. If you act like a lot of people's first time, they don't use condoms because they didn't really plan on it happening. Right?
Wow.
And so they try and do all of these different things, and they think that, I can't get pregnant. Even like the pull-out method. The pull-out method is only as good as the person who's pulling out.
Yes.
So, yeah. So you could be doing that and think you're Gucci and wind up pregnant. You're like, what happened? So like, actually it's only like 78% effective.
And then when you're a teen and you get pregnant, now your whole life is changed because schools don't, I guess it's against school policy, I'm thinking, or they try to pretend, they try to preserve their reputation. Mm-hmm. So instead of them accommodating the pregnant teen, they kick them out of school. So what kind of sense does that make?
I don't think they do that anymore.
What do they do now?
School, but
I thought they put you in like another program.
Sometimes they offer to put you in another program. But honestly, think about that. Putting a pregnant teen in another program only encourages them to drop out of school. Because now it's time for you to concentrate only on your baby and not on your education, which is going to help you pay for that baby. Mm-hmm. And so that's another problem.
So the bottom line is don't have sex, right?
Not
the bottom line.
That is very unrealistic because
everybody
will.
The bottom line is very realistic about sexual education
and provide access to both male and female when it comes to
contraception.
But who's providing this access? Because
the government, your parents.
Okay, but here's parents. I think parents should. Because,
that's the front line. That's the first line of education. Your home.
Household, when you talk about family planning and all that, because you gotta think about it. Young kids are growing up in society. They're learning what they need to know about sex by society. Like society uses sex to sell products. You watch a television show, you've seen a lot of sexual insinuations or whatnot. So people are learning about sex and feelings of love and all this kind of emotional stuff from what they see outside of their households.
And so it does.
Households are not teaching these things.
Yeah.
And then the same society is not fully giving the knowledge to people about the whole topic of words on,
especially in our culture.
Exactly, because in a lot of households, you see the guy talks to his dad about being sexually active, and he's like, "Hey, high five."
Yeah.
And then the girl, the same age, tries to tell him, no, not unless you're this age or that age. So now, if she does it, she's not
from outside the home as well, because that's not actually true.
I understand what you're saying. Like, it comes from outside of the home, but you as a parent, you have to teach your children,
both children,
that sex isn't evil, and it's not the girl, because it's like it's the girl's responsibility to be to be careful. Parents should also be involved in sexual education, because sometimes kids go to school and they don't have that information, and they look towards their parents to get that information, and parents don't even know as well. They look to the internet for that, and they don't know the right sources to go to. So parents should be involved. The school should have a program that teaches parents the proper sexual education.
I heard this term that blew my mind. The honor of a family rests on the female. Everything that goes wrong sexually, or I don't know how to describe it, but yes, anything that happens, it's the female that rests on.
But then the man is the head of the household.
But how did she get pregnant? She didn't it wasn't immaculate conception. The guy was part of it, but nobody says anything to the guy. Why?
I mean,
it's odd.
Because
I'm not going to agree with that. Because it takes two to tango. It takes that action to happen. So I'm not going to put it on the female.
But society doesn't see it that way, though.
I mean, and that's what I'm saying.
And the parents don't see it that way either.
Household, or we need to just start teaching what the real is. We can't allow society to teach us how to live, because society's not there to back you up at the end of the day.
It boggles my mind when you have people who say they're pro-life, and then when it comes to abortion, but then your whole concept is take care of the baby. When the baby is inside you, they're pro-life, and they're like, don't get rid of the baby. This baby is immoral, blah, 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 blah. And then you give birth, and it's like, well, fuck you then.
Honestly speaking, the way I think, I'm really just pro-life. I'm not an avid supporter of abortion, but I know sometimes, depending on what the situation is, there's a reason why it's done. So I can't sit here and judge anybody, especially being a male. There's only but so much connection I can have. A lot of times it's really just up to the female to make that decision. If I'm in a relationship with somebody and they had to make that decision, or if I just in general know somebody and they're looking for support, I mean, I'll do my best not to judge and just be a shoulder to cry on, or be a ear that's there to listen and help them through that process. Many different situations out there that call for that, and I can't judge anybody for making that decision. It's totally up to them.
And when the baby is now here, or when the child is now here, you're literally on your own. Who's going to feed this child? Everybody's going to be on welfare. And even in that sense, like, welfare might not be enough. It's like, what? That doesn't make sense.
People underestimate how expensive children are.
Oh my God. It's easy to make them.
It's easy to make them, but it's not easy to take care of them.
Exactly.
Okay,
and that's why a lot of fathers cut and run.
So what
people just adopt?
Yeah, how do you feel about it?
Why what?
I mean,
if you can't afford the child, and you can't afford the child, and you still made the decision to have sex, and you still made the decision to have the baby, and you're going through a lot, you can still have a situation where you put the child up for adoption, and make an agreement with whoever adopts the child that you still want to be in the child's life, so they can know who their family is.
But here's the thing:
that's a long
not everybody. No, yeah, not even just
easy,
that.
Yeah, there's no easy option.
Exactly, but the thing is, not everybody knows that. Like a 14-year-old that just gets knocked up by
not
accident.
only that, old people too.
No. I'm just saying the people that have very little access. 14-year-old somewhere, she's like, oh my god, I'm pregnant.
And
how would you know any of that?
You also forget like the emotional attachment they have to the babies.
Exactly.
It's not
Parents'
easy
baby.
to give up your baby for adoption, so they wrestle with that back and forth.
You don't end up giving it up. You're like, I can do this,
and then you
and
really
then you're on
can't.
welfare.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight your entire life. You have to drop out of school. You have to do X, Y, and Z because you want to be able to see your baby. But even if you do give the child up for an adoption, like,
they don't just get adopted immediately.
To completely forget about the child and be out of their life, or to see somebody else raise your baby, your blood, something that came from you, somebody else is providing for them? And what if you find out they suck? So how are you going to get the baby back?
Well,
right?
no, through the process, I think they, what's the word? They interview whoever's options are with the families. They try to make sure they're putting the child in a suitable environment with some people that can actually provide a healthy.
But then you now get into a case where those adoption ages, there are also rules and regulations that prevent people from adopting babies. They say, okay, if you're single, your highest chance of adoption, like your chance goes lower. You're single, if you're a gay couple, a whole bunch of different regulations.
I mean,
so there's a lot of things you can't screen for. You can't screen for. You guys screen for
crazy.
Screening is good.
Like, of course, it's good.
Yeah,
of course it's good.
But these are all the things that are going through your mind. Do I want to ride it out with this baby, my blood, my flesh that I've been carrying in my body for 9 months? Or do I want to give it up to some stranger that could raise it to be racist or to hate its own
We're talking about
skin and do
teenagers,
this?
right?
Anybody.
Anybody.
I mean, you got 13, 14-year-olds, even younger, and that having babies. At what point do we need to start teaching everything to girls and guys, but really it affects girls the most? So, like, at what point do we need to introduce this to the school system? Because a lot of times, I didn't learn about this until high school.
I say you should start teaching about sexual education in elementary.
I mean, from point A to point
from
Z,
elementary.
like the whole
No, you can't. You can't be everything.
No,
it's
you
like
can't.
Yeah, you
slow
can't.
progression.
Well, no. But what I'm saying is, you have a young child that's still growing up, going through postpartum, and they don't know it. They need to know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's what you discuss with your. Well, a lot of them don't even have
access to that gynecologic
exactly
care, prenatal care.
So we can't have that as far as the sex health education in the school system.
That goes
that's
into
again legislation.
Yeah.
So
people don't want to talk about. They feel like if they talk to you about what it means to have a kid and what sex means and how to use a condom, then that means you're pushing the kid to.
That actually sounds dumb. Why do people do that?
No, most kids have a device they can go learn anything they want. They could.
Now they do now.
But at that elementary school, they don't necessarily know.
No, not teaching them sex at elementary. Like you can teach them about what their body changes and all that. But then
like about sexual assault, like your body, like where people are not allowed to touch.
Exactly. Some people don't
sexually molested at that age. You need to start telling them.
Things that are going on now, they just have learning.
They need to start learning as early as possible.
To be touched, where you can't don't let a stranger touch.
There are kids that don't know what periods are. And they freak out all of a sudden. Oh my God, I'm bleeding between my legs. What did I do wrong? How do you not know that? You're supposed to be taught these things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and some of them are too embarrassed to even ask their parents.
Exactly.
They think it's weird, it's strange, so they just kind of ride it out. So federally, probably almost everybody receives some type of sexual education. But like in different states, some may say, okay, you can have sex education, but you only get abstinence only education. And then other states, you can have comprehensive sexual education. You can have abstinence plus sexual education. And so everybody's getting a different level of what they need to know. And so you can miss out on really, really important parts like birth control, contraception, and what your options are and what to do if something happens. But if you don't get that, you could be at a clear disadvantage.
I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, that it needs to establish in the household. Like the parents need to be the one to take that first step.
Yeah.
And how do the parents learn? Because they still have that mentality of the
from back in the day. All they know is like, you better not bring a baby home. That's not sexual education.
True.
I feel like there should be federally mandated comprehensive sexual education, because right now there are only recommendations. So I feel like every state should benefit from comprehensive sexual education. You don't want one state where there's abstinence only and another state where they have comprehensive sex education, people lose when that scenario happens.
Nobody taught me anything about sex. So I knew about sex before high school, and I learned from my friends.
I learned it from my twin brother.
Nobody actually sat me down because all I really heard was,
our mom
taught us. I was
have
like,
a girlfriend or don't come home with a baby. All I heard was all these things. Don't.
Yeah.
Not
actually.
What it is, how to conceive a child.
All those kind of things.
Yeah, we were lucky. Our mom sat us down at an early age and explained
guy's penis. This is woman's
she was
vagina.
a biology instructor. So when she was growing up, her parents lied to her and said, if you touch a guy, you get pregnant.
She was like,
so she was like dodging guys.
Yeah.
It was like till she got to. She was like till she got to college and they actually taught her these things, and she was like, wow. She was so upset. So she was like, then I'm going to make sure my kids know all these. And she taught both of us, our brothers and everything, the same thing. So that's why I keep pushing education is really important, and you can decide for yourself what you want to do with your future. So if your parents don't do it, you already have that negative negative attitude towards sex, and then you feel guilty
when
and the society is telling you all these things, and you're seeing all these videos, you're seeing all these, and guys too keep pushing on you. So you have to learn from somewhere, and if your parents don't do it, who else will?
So was the lady wrong though? The lady I started the whole discussions with, was she wrong for dumping the child?
I feel like it's a complicated answer because you don't know the circumstances which she made her decision. Like theoretically, it's literally wrong, but there's so many things that could have prevented that.
Layers to it.
Yeah, so many layers to it. So you can't really.
I feel like she was irresponsible.
It was.
Very, very irresponsible.
It wasn't a responsible decision.
It's a selfish choice, but at the end of the day, when you give people
no options.
We kind of set, a lot of times we set people up where they don't know what their options are. And so we don't know, in her case, what the specific circumstances were, if she really wasn't proactive enough to figure out how to handle this child, especially at the age of 21. She's already an adult, so she should have known better. But at the end of the day, I think society as a whole and how we treat sex education and how we treat pregnancy and babies and all of that stuff, they're responsible too.
I feel like she could have easily found somewhere to drop.
Let's not say easily.
Let's not say easy.
Maybe she didn't have a car. Maybe she didn't have a ride. Maybe she couldn't take the bus.
We don't know her circumstances.
Exactly.
Yes, she probably had options, but
they probably might not have been available to her. And even if everything was available to her, the most important thing that was very possible. The most important thing that's very possible is postpartum depression. There are several levels of postpartum depression that can completely make women
kill their children.
Exactly, without even realizing, oh crap, I really just killed my child. It's not just, I'm sad.
She didn't have anybody with her as far as maybe baby's daddy.
And she could have thought somebody would have found the child eventually.
Yeah.
Right? She maybe didn't think about, the weather is bad, my baby's going to starve to death, or this or that.
Churches.
Again, all of that requires you reporting to. She might not have told anybody she was pregnant.
Yeah.
She might not have told anybody she was pregnant.
Okay.
She didn't tell anybody she was pregnant.
Asking, and she was like, no, I'm fine. They were pushing that you're pregnant. She kept denying that she was.
A PSA: do not let the internet raise your kids. Be proactive.
Another PSA: do not let porn
information on sex. Please look at the CDC.gov, not some random website and blogs and shit.
What's the CDC?
Center for Disease. Center for Disease Control.
Center for Disease Control.
There we go. Another PSA: do not let porn teach you about sex. Porn is completely different from sex. No, it's a thing. People honestly go in.
You can find some moves, but don't let that be your baseline. Seriously,
you will get so disappointed. If you that's not real. That's not even anywhere close to being
especially for women. You think that shit feels good for us? No.
Wait, so does self-love count as prevention?
Nobody's gonna ask you.
It means that you touch yourself.
I didn't know how to process it.
It can. Because you're not involving a second partner for you to contact.
You
can
impregnate
yourself.
You don't even have to do. It could be mutual
self-love.
Mutual masturbation. I don't know why I'm afraid to use mutual masturbation, so that you don't actually have to have sex if you don't have protection. So there are other ways than actual penetration to have a good time. right?
Well, I mean, if someone else is there, eventually that's going to happen. So, I mean, we're talking about prevention. Is that something that counts as prevention?
I mean, sex isn't all about just your hormones and wanting to get off. Sometimes you actually have feelings towards another person and you want to express those feelings. So just because you're masturbating but you're in love with some dude, eventually you're going to want to express that love with them. So yes, probably to some degree, but you can't kind of hold on to that. Okay, but you can find other ways to have.
For people that want to practice abstinence, are you still practicing the act of abstinence by practicing self-love?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think maybe you were probably thinking of celibacy.
That's a good way to punish masturbation.
I mean, it's not
masturbation.
Something dirty, or not everybody, but some people do. They feel like
again that has to do with religion. That's a very strong thing in religion
and upbringing. Yeah.
People, we should talk about that.
What?
Masturbation. How girls are made to feel guilty for masturbating.
Girls
are made to feel.
Like guys too.
Guys too, but I feel like
it's more open. Guys
like,
are like, oh, I'm gonna get one off.
I have a lot of female friends that like don't masturbate, or like they have to like talk themselves into it to masturbating just because they feel like it's gross and it's like weird, and it's a thing. It's a legit thing.
Wow.
It's a legit thing. Look at his face. And like you don't realize how you internalize those messages about how people make you feel about masturbating. Like we don't even talk about it really. But for women, it's a weird thing, and a lot of women do not masturbate just because they feel like it's wrong. Even if they don't feel like it's really wrong, but they won't, like, they don't have a problem with other people doing it, but they don't do it themselves just because you kind of feel guilty when you do it.
I feel like masturbation can solve a lot of dumb mistakes too. Because like you could be fully aroused, about to probably have sex with somebody that you probably know you shouldn't have sex with, and then you do the do, and everything comes back to your senses, and you're like, you know what? I'm glad I did that. Like seriously, because when I want to get
masturbation saving lives, saves lives,
and preventing pregnancies,
and relationships.
I mean, that's STDs.
I guess the takeaway is everyone should be masturbating.
That's real. I mean, it prevents a lot of STDs. You're not putting yourself in a position to make those wrong decisions. Like, it's plenty of people that, I mean, that's some of the topic we're having, unprotected sex. They're not fully able to take care of the result of it. So, I mean, when you practice self-love, you kind of like just put away a whole...
The way you say self-love.
Like self-love.
It's so odd. Okay. It's so odd to me. Oh,
that's very
self-love.
Self-love.
Yeah, cool. Good tips, good conversations. That's great information. Did we hear them?
CDC Center for
Disease Control.
Right. That. .com or .org.
.org. Oh, .gov. I said .org.
Oh my goodness.